And the way I saw it was, the goal was not to be a great omnichannel retailer. The goal was to provide customers with the best service. And, if they wanted to buy something online, we would make it easy and fun for them. And if they wanted to come to our stores, we would give them a gratifying experience. And I think that's what business is all about, is understanding what your customers want and giving them a great experience.
That's Greg Nieuwenhuys, and this is episode 1 of the Eat Your Greens podcast. At the age of 10, Greg came sixth at the World Triathlon Championships. He's the only Dutchman to climb, without oxygen, the 6th highest mountain in the world, Cho Oyu, and then ski down it. His passion for sport, and particularly endurance sport, has led him to competing in a number of endurance events, including a 200-kilometre ice skating competition, something he completed in under 6 hours, and running the Ultra Trail du Mont Blanc, a 170-kilometre ultramarathon around the Mont Blanc Mastiff in the French Alps. Did I mention he was the Dutch ski mountaineering champion in 2012, 2013 and 2017? When Greg and I spoke, he was self-isolating with his wife and their 5 children at their home in the Cotswolds. In this episode, we talk performing at the top, both in sport and business. Greg's the former Chief Executive of Bever, an outdoor retailer based in the Netherlands, and where he transformed that company with his team from having no online presence in 2011 to becoming a leading Dutch multi-channel retailer, growing revenues from 50 to 100 million euros. He was Chief Executive of Outdoor and Cycle Concepts Limited, the parent company of Cotswold Outdoor, Snow and Rock, Cycle Surgery, and Runner's Need. And today, he's a successful business consultant, passionate about putting together top achievements in sport and business. And that is the basis of our conversation today. And we start by talking about the Ultra Trail du Mont Blanc, or as some will know it, the UTMB.
So the Ultra Trail du Mont Blanc is probably the most kind of famous and renowned ultra trail of the world. And you go around the Mont Blanc Mastiff. So you start in Chamonix and you go around to Italy, to Courmayeur, and then to Switzerland, and then you come back into France. So you kind of go up and down mountains all the time. And the quickest time is usually between 20 and 24 hours. And I was lucky to get in 2014. And I have to say, I was really, really poorly prepared that year. And it took me 39 hours. And it was really, I think, after about 15 hours, the only thing I could think about is giving up. And I really don't know how I kind of managed to stay going for another 25 hours. It was really, really hard.
I guess 2 questions on that then. How did you carry on then? 25 more hours or thereabouts of telling yourself that you want to give up and you didn't. I mean, that's a level of mental strength that many simply wouldn't be able to demonstrate. Have you been able to work out what it is that you consciously or subconsciously did to power on through that?
Well, one thing I did, which is is to break up the race, and the reason I kind of broke after 15 hours is I realized okay, I've done 80 kilometers, but I have 90 to go. And I felt really, 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 really tired. And just thinking of the 90 just mentally broke me. I couldn't get my head around it. And like Muhammad Ali, he said, and I think it's a wonderful quote, if my mind can conceive it and my heart can believe it, then I can achieve it. But I just couldn't conceive it. I couldn't see the 90 kilometers. So it's about breaking down the race into, let me just get to the next aid station. And that can take 2 or 3 hours. But that suddenly becomes a goal that you think, well, maybe it's achievable. And, I would even tell myself, I can go to the next aid station and I'll quit there. But by the time you get there, you tell yourself, well, maybe I can get to the next one. And but at a certain point, I did tell myself, I'm quitting. I told the organization I'm quitting. I called my wife and I had told her, if I ever call you, no mercy, no matter what, no mercy. So the first thing I said is, yeah, I know I told you no mercy, but that doesn't count. This is different. And she had zero mercy, and she said, no, you're not gonna. And then she put up a post on Facebook, telling people, a lot of people were following me live, and saying, come on, Greg needs a pep talk. And then she called me back and she read me through all those comments of those people. people, and I thought, oh, I really, I need to go ahead, and all these people are following me, and actually, I'm so lucky to be able to do this, and I've trained for this, and my family's here, and I've paid for it, and so who am I to stop? And so, yeah, it was painful, but I still realized, like, yeah, I'm doing this. It's a choice, and think about people who are running away from war or illness or a place of lack of security. How that might be, and where you don't really have the choice to stop, and where stop means dying. I thought, if they can do that, then I must be able to push through.
What's the more important muscle to train? Is it the mind, if you accept that the mind is a muscle, or is it your physical body? Because it sounds like the biggest challenges you had doing that were actually mental as opposed to physical.
I think, obviously, I think in order to complete the race, you have to be ready physically, but the mental side is going to be more important. That's where the race is won or lost, and I think I'm naturally fairly gifted mentally, because I've gone through, with all of these endurance challenges. I've gone through, lots of challenges, and I've learned to overwin them. So I consider myself to be fairly strong mentally. But that definitely was one of the hardest things I ever did mentally, just because I felt so poorly that day. And I've done other ultras, 100-mile races where I've been fine, and I didn't go through that pain and hell, but I was just physically very poorly prepared that year. And that's why mentally it was so hard.
It's difficult to talk about pain, isn't it? Because you and I and everybody else will feel pain differently. But what sort of level of physical pain, discomfort do you find yourself in when you're running 100 miles?
Yeah, I think with pain, I think it's you can look at it in so many different ways. And the way I like to think about it is curiosity. Is, what is this trying to tell me? What's going on here? And you can think as pain as something that you want to go away as quickly as possible, or you can also just say, to be grateful for your body of trying to tell you something. And I think one of the amazing things with pain is especially when you get into these really long races, is there's a rule which is almost always true, is when something hurts and you feel really, really, really bad, it doesn't always get worse. So at some point, you'll have a moment when you actually start to feel better, and the pain goes away, and you can, I had moments even after that 15 hours where suddenly I felt really good, and I thought, okay, this is amazing, and you'd feel good for 2 or 3 hours, and then you'd have a really hard moment, and you just have to realize, yeah, this is temporary, and I'll feel better in a minute. So then also the mental aspect just comes back of reminding yourself why you're doing it, and that you're so lucky and very privileged, and that gratefulness is something that kept me going.
What are the similarities between performing at a high level in sport and performing at a high level in business, in terms of the character traits that you believe high performing sportsmen and women have, and also have in business?
Yeah, I mean, that's a great question. I think to me they sound fairly obvious, so apologize if I am stating the obvious, but what's really important, first of all, is I think is setting goals that are really that are not easy goals, but really hard goals to meet, because that can be very motivating. So don't settle for something that's small when you can achieve something big. And I think in business that can make a lot of sense. It's just to be bold and set a really big goal. And don't let anything get in the way of those goals. So the perseverance that athletes will show in endurance is the same perseverance that you need to achieve your goals. And sometimes it can be really inspiring for people to see that perseverance, but sometimes it can also be really scared and frightening. And I remember people working with me, who tell me, like, you're exhausting, and I can't, you can't demand what you're demanding, from yourself to others, because it's just, it's frightening. And over the years, I've learned to kind of deal with that a bit better. But I do think, the real strong will to succeed and remove barriers and problems and solve them so you can get to your goal is something very similar, and it's a mindset thing.
Is there one particular experience that you had in sport that you remind yourself of in business?
I think for me, it's probably more just a collection of all those different moments. Like the UTMB, like the Cho Oyu. I mean, there's been so many moments where you thought, why am I doing this? This is not a good idea. Please stop. Please stop coming up with all these stupid challenges, hurting yourself. But then you realize like how happy it makes me to realize them. So I think it's just a collection of all those moments, realizing that actually, that's the whole reason why people get into a marathon. If they thought it was going to be really easy, they probably wouldn't get into the marathon. And for some people, it's signing up for a 5K and saying, maybe in like 2 months I can run a 5K. And they're probably doing that because they see it as a challenge. And it's the same for a 5K, as a 10K, as a marathon, as for the UTMB. And I think it's the same for a business challenge. It's just like the uncertainty of knowing if you're going to be able to crack it makes it so gratifying when you do.
Do you think there's something in life has gotten easier, hasn't it? With the birth of technology and the ever increasing ease in which we can pretty much do anything we want, from communicate to travel. Do you think there's something in looking at sport and then high-performing sportsmen and women and high-performing businessmen and women? Do you think there's something in almost enjoying the discomfort because everything else is so comfortable?
Yeah, I'm not sure if that's going to be the case at the moment, as we're in the middle of this pandemic crisis. But I definitely understand where you're coming from. And I think, I'm not sure if the word, I understand what you mean. I'm not sure the word easy is the way I would qualify it, because I think, yes, we have access to, especially in the Western world, there's a lot less poor people, and our life expectancy is higher, and the GDP per inhabitant is much higher. So there is a lot of abundance, and the basic needs of an individual are much are satisfied much sooner than they were like 100 years ago. So it gives you different type of problems, and I think that's why some of us are looking to go out to challenge themselves, because from evolution we are used to being challenged and massively challenged, for situations that it was about life and death. And I think for some of us, just getting that challenge and having to fight really hard does kind of bring a spark that makes us feel more alive. So that's the case for me.
Talking of challenges and fighting really hard, you've a wealth of experience in business and have been chief executive of 2 leading sports retailers. Bever, is that how you say it?
Yes. Yeah. Well. Yeah. Bever. Yeah. The Dutch pronunciation would be Bever. Yeah. Yeah. Which is quite unfortunate in the English language.
Yeah, it is. So Bever, you were chief executive of that company, and during that period, you took it from having absolutely no online presence to being a leading Dutch multi-channel retailer. How do you go about setting that as a goal, or indeed was that the goal? To achieve that kind of status in terms of being a leading multi-channel retailer?
Yeah, I think, that's probably one of the most fun things I've done in my career. And this was started in 2011, when in the Netherlands, typically a little bit behind the UK in terms of online adoption, a lot of people were still very cynical about online and e-commerce, and especially within the Bever organization. When I became CEO, people thought, people will always come to our stores because we have the best staff, and the reason we exist is because of our staff and our service. And of course, the staff was an amazing asset of the business, but I just realized that somehow I thought, this is going to massively change, and the online is going to be our best friend and not our best enemy. And I had a vision of the company becoming, this massive online player with the stores, combining the advantages you have online with the advantages of having stores. And at first, people declared me for crazy, and I was putting a lot of money behind it, a lot of time. But at a certain point, people realized, there's nothing is going to stop this guy from pushing really hard on this. And I think that's where my perseverance came in, and then it started to work fairly quickly. So you get traction, and people realize, okay, this, it's working. And the way I saw it was, the goal was not to be a great omnichannel retailer. The goal was to provide customers with the best service. And, if they wanted to buy something online, we would make it easy and fun for them. And if they wanted to come to our stores, we would give them a gratifying experience. And I think that's what business is all about, is understanding what your customers want and giving them a great experience.
And you alluded to it earlier, and absolutely right. I mean, at the moment, business is going through possibly one of its most challenging periods in history. It's 27th of March as we're recording this, and we're in the midst of the COVID-19 pandemic, and we don't know how this is going to play out. But I think it's very clear that whatever happens, however quick a rebound there may or may not be, this period right now is going to be hugely challenging for business of all different sizes. What advice would you give to people listening who are owners, operators, leaders in business, with regards to dealing with the inevitable change that they will have to make in response to what's happening?
Yeah, I think that's a great question, and I doubt I have the right answers, because no one really knows, what's going to happen and how the world is going to change. And I've actually been fairly pessimistic from early February, thinking, if this comes to Europe, it is going to have a massive impact. So I do believe, we're going into a recession, and that it'll be pan-European, but that the US probably won't escape from it, looking at the numbers now. But a lot of it depends on, how long is it going to take before we get the disease under control, with immunity and a vaccine, etc. And that's something I have no idea when it's going to be. My hopes would be that, somewhere like in June, July, that a good share of the activity would be able to go back on, but that's speculating. So for me, I think the way I would look at it, if I was an entrepreneur or a business owner today, which currently I'm not, is to remind yourself that as human beings, we've gone through so many epidemics and challenges and wars, and humankind has always overcome this. And Darwin obviously said, it's not the strongest or the smartest species that survive, but those that are able to change best. And I think that here is to try and understand what is changing. And, some things will go back to normal or go back to their old things, but a lot of things will never go back to normal, because a lot of, will people continue to travel as much as they did in the past? I think, the amount of video calls and conference calls people are having, I think that's going to have a massive impact on business travel. And it just saves so much time. And why are people going to take a risk and go on a plane and spend money? And so there will be drastic changes, and there will be things that go back. And I think as a business owner, thinking of, which trends are really important for your business, and, taking a bit of a bet on where you think things will change and things will go back, I think will help you to position your business. And then, you don't have to be right with your predictions, but just putting in those predictions will at least help you picture a vision of the future, and you can adapt that vision as soon as, more information comes free and available around what is happening.
It's difficult, isn't it? Like you say, because we just don't know how it's going to play out, but it's, what you're in essence saying is you need to prepare for the change, but remind yourself that humankind has overcome similar but different problems in the past, and it's those smart businessmen and women who plan for the change. And I guess because we have no choice, we have to embrace the change as well, don't we? I mean, I think it's really exciting from an environmental point of view that businessmen and women, certainly senior executives in FTSE 100 companies and so on, are probably going to wake up to the fact that they don't need to fly around the world quite like they had been in order to do good business. Zoom, Skype, as we're talking on right now, can provide them with an opportunity to communicate their message to their colleagues, save themselves time, save themselves money, and a knock-on impact of that will be a ever improving environment for our children to grow up in.
Oh, completely, and I think that's maybe the gift of this pandemic. If maybe for those suffering now and people who have family members suffering, like the word gift sounds very, very harsh, but I try to look at everything that's happening to myself or to anyone, is to see where is the positive here, where might there be a learning. And I think the impact for the environment, it's like almost like planet Earth has been saying, okay, where's the reset button? How are we gonna make this humankind realize what's going on and be brave and take big steps? Well, this is a massive gift, and travel is one, but everything is like we can reset anything now. And you look at the efforts governments are taking, it's unseen, but to a risk that's very, very obvious and very, very imminent. Whereas the risk, the planetary risk, is for some people a lot less obvious, but also especially a lot less imminent. So how can we focus and work together globally? Because that's what's also really beautiful about this, is that everyone in the world is faces the same challenge, which is the same for climate change. And yeah, so I think that from that point of view, there's a lot of hope that we can move forward in a better way than we have been doing in recent years.
What do you think separates a good business from a great business?
I think in most cases it's going to be around the culture in the business, where is the business, are the people at the top instilling a culture where it's about learning, about being great and not settling for something that's good, but where good is not good enough. And yeah, where they set the example. And I think I've seen so many businesses that have amazing products, but that can give you great success for a number of months or years. But if you want to be successful in the long term, the culture and how the people work together, learn from each other, challenge each other, improve things together, for me is kind of the biggest ingredient to success. It really is how people interact with each other.
Is there a particular business that you've worked with or for in the past that you think has gotten culture as right as you can get it?
Well, if I think of the businesses I've been in, I think I have to admit that no. I mean, I've tried really hard, and especially at Bever, we've made loads of improvements, following the success of the business, or maybe allowing the success of the business, probably better said. But no, but that's maybe also how I look at things. Is for me, it's never going to be good enough, because you always realize like this could be different, this could be different. So, yeah, I think if I look outside of where I've been, there are businesses that do something that's really, really amazing, but it's always difficult to taste the culture from the outside. What's going to tell you the real story is always from the inside.
Yeah, I always find the best way to understand whether or not people in the business are bought into and are engaged with the culture is ask someone that isn't a manager a random question about their culture, and that will fairly quickly tell you if people are at least aware of it and somewhat engaged. And then it's a case of sitting back and observing. But like you say, you can't fully experience a business culture, I don't think, unless you're engrossed in it, unless you're experiencing the customer facing aspect of that, which is inextricably linked, but sometimes different.
I agree. And I mean, that's the thing about a great culture is if it is a great culture, people who work for the business will be very proud, very productive, probably fairly happy in their jobs, engaged. But customers will be very proud and very loyal. And obviously those two, proud people who work for you will do a much better job at making their customers proud. And, if you work in customer service and you're proud of where you work, and you want to go the extra mile, and you speak to a customer, it is very likely that a customer will, by the time they hang up or finish the chat, that, they will be sparked and say, yeah, this was a great experience, and, I look forward to coming back. So those things are incredibly linked, for very obvious reasons.
2020 is already turning out to be the year that no one had planned. What do you have planned for the rest of the year? What are you hoping to achieve both personally and professionally?
Well, I was due to start supporting an investment firm next week in Amsterdam with a lot of their investments and trying to help some of the businesses they buy, to make a transformation quicker, faster, better. I was really looking forward to it. Obviously, that's now not happening because it involves travel. And it's probably, they have, a lot of other things on their plate now rather than getting me to VC into things. So I'm not sure what the year is going to bring professionally. And I'm not actively engaged in many things at the moment, which in a way I feel sad about, but also I feel like maybe it's not the worst time to take a break. Personally, I have twins who are 1 year old, and they've been very ill last year post their birth, and they have vulnerable lungs. So the most important thing will be making sure that our family stays safe and healthy, which so far we're doing great. And going out every day as long as we still can from Mr. Boris is proving to be a lifesaver for me at the moment. Just going out for a run every morning gives me so much energy that I need during the day to keep the family happy and get all the things done, because it can be quite intense at home, and I'm sure a lot of people are experiencing that. And one of my goals for this year was the UTMB, end of August. Who knows? I think at the moment the chances are, maybe 20-30% they will go ahead, but who knows? I don't think they have the challenge like the Olympics of saying, yeah, we need to have a level playing field to be allowed to do the race, because I think in these type of races, I think participating should be qualified as more important than competing. But yeah, that's not up to me. But if I were an organizer, I would try really hard to get some of those events in the second half of the year, just to help people go back to normality.
And have you got the points? So you've got a place for UTMB?
Yeah, yes. So for UTMB, which is end of August, you need to get the points. I think it's before the 31st of December, the year before. And there's a lottery, and I'm in. Yes, so I'm in. So I'm ready to go. Well, I need a bit more training, but I'm definitely on track.
I wish you the very best of luck with the training, and totally relate to those early morning runs, setting you up for the day. They're a bit of a lifesaver at the moment.
Exactly, and even if my UTMB doesn't go ahead, I know I sense that a lot of people are being demotivated by not being able to race or run with others, and I haven't experienced that so far. And I think if the UTMB doesn't go ahead, I will find other challenges. Like in the UK, there's the Paddy Buckley round, which is a round of 100 kilometers in Wales and Snowdonia, where you go on the summit of all the peaks. I could do it by myself, take about 24 hours. And I'm sure that there'll be a point where, you can get back out and do things, and you don't need to interact with other people to do amazing things. And sometimes those solo challenges can be as amazing as entering a big race. So it's about being creative and finding a challenge that, that you can still do in these times, and not looking at the things that are no longer possible.
And I think that's the takeaway from this podcast, isn't it? What a great way to end it. And thank you very much. By the way, if you need a crew, more than happy to come and help you. Crew, whether it's UTMB, planning to be out there myself, not competing, but planning to be out there subject to it going on. Or if you want to go and play in the Snowdonia National Park once we're allowed to, I'm up for a 24-hour 100K run if you are.
Amazing. I think I'll take you on both.
There you have it. The first episode of the Eat Your Greens podcast. If you'd like to connect with Greg, you can head to LinkedIn and search for Greg Nieuwenhuys. That's Nieuwenhuys. 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 And if you want to find out more about Eat Your Greens, head to eatyourgreensgroup.com. Until next time, thank you, Greg, and thank you for listening.